Welcome, gentlemen, to Creation and the Fall, Lesson 1-2. Quick reminder that when you're taking these notes, you may use these notes on your daily quizzes. Any handwritten notes that you take may be used. And with that said, these notes will also be graded for your notebook check. I'm going to start with the pattern of creation. This is something that we will actually draw in class. All right, so when we're talking about the creation of the world, which we just did, we also have to talk about the fall. Adam and Eve's temptation into sin. And immediately, the first thing we need to talk about is that they were tempted by something that was already evil, that is the serpent. The first thing we need to say about the serpent in this book is that the Hebrew word used for serpent here is nahash. This word is used in the Bible to designate a deadly threat. In Numbers 21, when the Israelites are in the desert, they get bitten by these deadly serpents that cause them to get ill and die. Here we see Nahash being used to symbolize something very threatening. In Isaiah 27, the word Nahash is used to describe the great sea Leviathan, the dragon of the sea, which symbolizes Satan. And the book of Revelation also speaks of the ancient serpent, a great red dragon. So the idea is this serpent, this Nahash in the garden, is not something that is unthreatening. It is a deadly and mortal threat to both Adam and Eve. And that's why the book of Hebrews says that although Jesus had taken to himself flesh and blood, he did so in order to die and therefore defeat him who has the power of death, that is, Satan, who had tricked Adam and Eve through the fear of death to sin against God. Whose fault was it? A lot of people say that it was Eve's fault because she was the first one to eat of the fruit, which God commanded them not to eat. But I want to look at this a little closer because the New Testament usually puts most of the blame on Adam, saying it's the sin of Adam that caused original sin. So we have to ask 4 questions for Adam to understand why he is the one that the Bible places most of the blame on. Those relate to his 4 roles. So role number 1, as the Son of God, is Adam going to trust his Father? Trust him to do what? God gave him 2 commands. Number 1, do not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And number 2, to guard and to keep the garden. If he's going to guard and keep the garden, that means he has to guard it from something. Presumably, he's to guard it from the snake, which he seems to have failed to do. Number 2, as king, Adam is given dominion over all the creatures of the earth. Is he going to exercise that dominion and expel this serpent from the garden? Number 3, as Eve's husband, is he going to stand up for her and protect her from this deadly threat of the serpent? And lastly, as the priest of the garden, will Adam, if need be, do what all priests do and offer a sacrifice if necessary? The sacrifice he would offer would be the same that Jesus did. He would have to lay down his life for his bride, Eve. Adam failed to do any of these 4, and for that reason, the Bible places most of the blame for original sin on him. Now, at that point, they eat the fruit, their eyes are open, they see that they're naked and all of that stuff. Does God kick them out of the garden immediately? The answer is no. He gives them a chance to repent. So God comes to see them and asks them a series of questions. To Eve, he says, "Why have you done this thing?" And her reply should have been, "You know what? I ate of the fruit. I apologize. I'm sorry." No, she says, "The serpent tricked me." Well, we know that's not true because it says that Eve saw that the fruit was good for food and desired to make her wise. So she could say that the serpent tricked her, but in reality, we know that she wanted to eat the fruit. All right, well, Eve failed the test. How about Adam? Will he own up to his sin and admit to God and ask for forgiveness? No. Adam says, "The woman you gave me gave of me the fruit, so I ate." So not only does he blame Eve, well, she gave me the fruit, he blames God, "The woman you gave me." Well, at this point, they do get kicked out of the garden. This is an important point, though. Before, they blamed each other and blamed God and all that stuff, and blamed the serpent. Adam and Eve did not get expelled from the garden, showing that even after they had sinned, there was still chance for them to remain in the garden. When God questioned them and offered a chance for forgiveness, they refused to admit their guilt. That is why they were removed from the garden. And the particular reason they were removed from the garden, according to the Bible, it says, He removed them from the garden so that they would not be able to eat of the tree of life, so that the way to the tree of life would be closed to them. Well, why would God not want them to eat of the tree of life? The point is, He does not want Adam and Eve to live forever in the state of sin. So when they are unwilling to admit of their sin, He removes from them the opportunity to live forever in the state of sin. So He removes them from the garden. Had they admitted their fault, there would be no problem. God would forgive them and they would remain in the garden. But that's not what happened, so we have to look at these curses. Number 1, on the serpent. You notice that God confronts Adam and Eve, but He questions them. He offers a chance to repent. He does not do this with the serpent. He never asks the serpent one question. He turns to him and says, "Cursed are you above all creatures. On your belly you will go, and dirt you will eat." So He predicts humiliation and destruction. He says, "I'll put enmity between you and the woman, between her seed and your seed. You will bite at her heel, or you will bite at his heel, and he will crush your head." That's ultimate destruction. The time is coming when the seed of the woman will crush the head of the serpent. We know that as Jesus killing or defeating the serpent at the cross. There are also curses on Adam and Eve. Number 1, unfortunately for women, painful childbirth will be increased. Number 2, the relationship between man and women is no longer in unity. Men will try and dominate women, and women will try and dominate men. That is often the relationship between men and women in sin. 3, man will have to work for his food. The garden had all the food that they needed, but now man will have to work. He'll have to sweat, and much of the time his work will be unfruitful, which means a flood can come and destroy everything he's worked for. Unforeseen consequences can happen. It takes a lot of effort and work to build a building, but it only takes one earthquake to destroy it. And last but not least is physical death for Adam and Eve. And this is a limitation on the sin that mankind can do in life. He's divorced himself from God, and now he will die. It's really crucial to point out that these curses that God places on mankind are not God just trying to push suffering onto mankind. These are natural consequences of being apart from God. Because we sin, we have driven the unity between man and woman apart from each other. We dominate women because it's in our sinful nature now. Women want to dominate us or manipulate us because it's in their nature. Work becomes difficult because we have ceased to rely on God for everything that we need. These are curses that are meant to bring us back to God, to show us our own limitations. So let us turn our hearts back to God, seeking after Him. Thank you for your time. I'll see you guys later.